worry about Hard Knocks. Don't have to worry about training camp, preseason NFL games. Week 1 is officially upon us. And a good Tuesday morning to one and all. It is Moose and Keith. I'm Mark Malusis. He's Keith Arizari. We're going right up until high noon here on this Tuesday. And throughout the course of the NFL season, we're going to be coming to you for the majority of it, give or take, Mondays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to go for an hour, 11 a.m. to noon. And we'll have our guests and we'll have picks and we'll do a number of different things over the course of the hour. And we're happy to be with you right here on the Better Sports Network, Fantasy Alarm, everything and the like. And good morning, Keith. Hopefully everyone out there had themselves a wonderful Labor Day weekend, and not the official end of summer, but for all intents and purposes, it is. Happy Tuesday morning to you, brother.
Yeah, happy Tuesday morning to you. Labor Day weekend was awesome. I was up in Happy Valley, hanging with the fam. We went to the Penn State game on Saturday night. It was great. Absolutely awesome. And yeah, I go back and forth on this. I know we're really going to get into the crux of things, but is today, should we consider today the first day of summer, or is it, really the, September 21st, 22nd, whatever?
First day of fall, you mean?
Of fall. Yeah. The end of summer, right?
Yes.
I feel like today is the end of summer.
It's the end of summer. Summer's over.
The kids are back in school. I mean, we're going to have a heat
care what
wave.
The calendar says, it's over.
Exactly. Yeah. Although heat wave this week.
Yes.
I mean, I'll just throw it out there. I know tomorrow I don't have a lot going on in the afternoon. I'm working at night and I got to do one thing in the morning. I might be by the pool by myself tomorrow afternoon. I'm just throwing it out there, all right?
Well, you should enjoy it. I'm not telling you shouldn't have the pool open. It's going to be in the high 80s, low 90s. Enjoy the pool, enjoy that. But I mean, when football comes rolling around, you got fantasy drafts. Yeah. I know I've got a couple of them later on tonight. Both get going at 10 o'clock tonight. Unfortunately, I'm going to be at work, and that's going to be a song and dance. Maybe I'll have one of the Arizari boys do my draft tonight.
Hey, let me know.
Maybe I'll take maybe I'll see if I can one of your boys can stay up late tonight and do a fantasy draft, or maybe Keith, you can help out the cause and do a fantasy draft for me.
Around.
I'd appreciate it. But you got fantasy drafts, obviously, knockout pools. You've got everyone making predictions. We're going to give you some bold predictions for the NFL season a little bit later on in the program as well. It's everyone can, I don't have to see any more countdowns on social media. The NFL is back every single Sunday now moving forward. We're going to get NFL football from soup to nuts, and morning, noon, and night. It's going to be consistent, constant NFL conversation. And as you and I are both here in the tri-state area, the baseball teams haven't really given us much to root for or look forward to. Mets and Yankees are both not going to be playoff teams here in 2023. The Jets and Giants with high expectations. Maybe the Jets with a little bit higher of an expectation in 2023, but it's great that the NFL is back.
Yeah, and I'm trying to not buy into the Hard Knocks hype, but I think it's really easy to do that. You watch and you get a chance to kind of pay attention to the ins and the outs of said team, and this year obviously being the New York Jets. I do believe that the Jets are going to be really, really good this year. I was actually having this conversation with my father this morning. I know we're going to bounce from team to team and talk about some injury updates too, but let's start there since you led us to the New York teams. With the New York Jets, my dad is, he's been a Jets fan since he's a child, right? So he's never seen them really matter, win, whatever, right? And he's like, they'll probably stink again this year. I'm like, all right, but can we, let's not do that to start, right? I'm like, let me ask you a question, Dad. The Jets defense, and I'll do this with you too, Moose. The Jets defense, should it be a top 10 defense?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Is Aaron Rodgers better than anything they had at quarterback last year?
Yes.
Okay. Is Aaron Rodgers presumably better than anything they've had at quarterback for the last 10 years?
Yes.
Cool. Garrett Wilson, does he have the chance to be one of the 4 or 5 best wide receivers in the NFL?
Yes.
Is Allen Lazard better than any number 2 that the Jets had last year?
Yes.
Right. The running game for the Jets, even if Breece Hall, and I know he's, scheduled to be able to play week 1, even if they slow play him, if you have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook as your dynamic duo, is that better than anything they've had in a while?
Yes.
Cool. Offensive line today, September 5th, is healthy. If they can stay healthy, I know that's an if. If they can stay healthy, is the offensive line at least middle of the pack. Right? Middle of the pack, even if they're healthy. Middle of the pack if they're healthy.
Middle of the pack, yes.
Fine. Put it all together. Doesn't that sound like a team that can compete? And my dad was like, yeah, I guess you're right. It's just they're the Jets, and this is what they do to me. So
yeah, and I get to kicking the tin can down the street, and the very fact of and Brian, if you can get the DJ Reed stuff from yesterday, talking about the Jet defense, I'll cue that up here in a second. But yeah, I think you should embrace it, just like Joe Douglas has embraced it, just like Robert Saleh has embraced it. I think they're not running from it. They're not talking about the fact that they don't. They expect this team to be a Super Bowl contender. They expect this team to not only be a playoff team, but to be really, really dangerous come playoff time. They're all in on this season. So the GM's not running from it. The coach is not running from it. The players certainly are not running from it. And with that in mind, here's DJ Reed yesterday. You want to talk about, and the focus has been on Rodgers and the offense. How about that Jet defense?
The potential to be the best defense in the NFL. And honestly, I think we could be historical, not just the best defense in the league, but I think we could have installed the things together and we focus on the now and we're deliberate and everyone plays up to their potential. The sky's the limit for us.
Yeah, a couple of the defenses throw into the mix would be obviously the Baltimore Ravens, who beat the Giants in the Super Bowl when, they had, God rest his soul, Tony Siragusa and Ray Lewis and I think it was Michael McCrary on the out. I mean, they had an Peter Boulware. They had an unbelievable defense that year, and also the Buccaneer defense that beat the Raiders, even though they knew all the adjustments that Rich Gannon was making at the line of scrimmage. Still, that was a Buccaneer defense that has one Hall of Famer after another being a part of it. But yeah, the Jet defense, see, that's the interesting thing, Keith, when you look at the Jets, is all the focus, and rightfully so, has been on Rodgers because it's Aaron Rodgers. He's a former, four-time MVP of the league, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest, most physically gifted quarterbacks we've ever seen play, longtime Green Bay Packer, changing teams just like Brett Favre changed teams at the end of his career, coming in here. And I just think he's probably got a lot more tread left on the tires coming to New York than Brett Favre did. But we got to remember that Jet team was 8-3 with Brett, and they were trending in the right direction before Favre suffered that injury, and then the wheels came off. So, but all the focus has been on Rodgers. The defense last year was top four in yards allowed per game, and they were top four in scoring average. And that was a defense, Keith, that had little to no semblance of a consistent offense throughout the course of the year. Now you tell me that, and we've said it time, Rodgers doesn't have to be brilliant. He just needs to be significantly better than what they had last year. That defense can be the reason because they are ridiculously talented. So we talk about not running away from it and talking to your dad off the ledge this morning, and all Jet fans that don't understand what it is to have expectations and hope and be really dangerous and be really excited because all they've watched this team is trip over themselves as an organization time and time again. Well, the defense is unbelievably good. And even if the offense struggles early, the defense is going to be the reason that they remain in those games.
I think that there are two trains of thought here. There is the side of people that say, why put this pressure on yourself? Why bring up the 85 Bears and all of these great teams when you're a defense? Then there's the side that is this guy. Hey, embrace it all. Put all the pressure on your defense. If you truly believe that you can be historically great, why not say it? Fine. But now you do have to back it up. Like, this can't be a Jets defense that I know the Buffalo Bills is game number one and the Bills are going to be a high-flying offense, or they should be a high-flying offense. You can't go out and give up 35 points to the Bills now, right? Like, that can't be a thing. Even if you lose game one of the season, this needs to be like you lose 24-21 or a 21-17 type of game. This has to be defense did their thing. Offense struggled a little bit at times because they're getting their footing. That's where you're at. I will say that. Like, it's like Deion Sanders or Coach Prime, whatever you want to do. I love what he's doing in Colorado, but if you're going to go at reporters and say, do you believe now? Do you believe now? Now you know that target is at least there on you. And if you lose that next game, you have to be willing to, take a little bit of that pressure there too.
Great. Yeah, you're 100% right. And listen, I don't think Dion's afraid of that pressure, and I don't think
No,
the
I don't think
Jets
he ever has
are
been.
are afraid of that pressure. I don't think they're afraid of having that target and having that focus be on them, and it's been on them for quite some time. Speaking of a team where, the focus has been off here a little bit, and I bring them up, and that being the Los Angeles Rams. And more of the conversation over the last like 12 months has been about the coaching future of Sean McVay, whether or not he wanted to be part of a rebuild. And they went all in and, mortgaged their future, just like the old Bobby Beathard used to do with the Washington team in order to try and win a Super Bowl. And they did do that, right? But now you have to deal with the ramifications afterward, where you look at a Ram team that really isn't superiorly gifted anymore. They really not. Matthew Stafford's a massive question mark. He's having issues relating to the younger players that are on his team. But when we look at it from a fantasy perspective, going into week one, a lot of concern about their number one wide receiver and the number one target for Matthew Stafford, and that being the great wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Here's McVay, Sean, that is, talking about his talented wide receiver and the hamstring issues.
I think you just move forward, and you got to be able to operate with the situation and the guys that we do have. And if he's able to go, then that's outstanding for us. And if not, then, that's kind of how we've been operating. And so I think the most important thing is whenever he's able to take the field, whether that be this week, whether that be week 2, whatever it is, as long as he's able to have that return to performance, he's feeling like the Cooper Kupp that we all know and love. And he's got some clarity on, all right, what is really going on? I think that'll, be a really good situation for us. And, you look at it in the meantime, and really in his absence over the majority of the offseason program, whether he was doing stuff for the family or just some of the things that he was rehabbing with his ankle, it has forced growth and development for some players, and they've gotten some reps and opportunities and a rapport with Matthew that you do feel confident in their ability to step up if that's what has to occur.
All right, let me ask you this, Keith. I don't mean to jump on you there, but if you are going into a fantasy draft, what do you do with Cooper Kupp?
Cooper Kupp went from 2 weeks ago a first round selection. Okay. You take him in the first round. If I were doing a draft tonight, Mark Malusis is doing 14 drafts tonight.
Yes.
I'm not touching him in the first round. I'm not sure I want him in the second round. He'll go in the second round. Now, here's the problem is that you will have to take him over the likes of CeeDee Lamb. He's been going over Stephon Diggs. He's been going ahead of Garrett Wilson. He's been going ahead of Davante Adams. I mean, I'm listing all of these wide receivers for you that are number ones and are going to be absolutely awesome on their teams and awesome fantasy-wise this year. And he has it, from what we're reading, it sounds like a grade 1 hamstring. Grade 1, if they wanted to push it, he probably could play in week number 1. The problem is you push it, he tweaks it again, suddenly he's out for 4 or 5 weeks. They're going to have to slow play this, which means you're going to have to slow play this in your fantasy league, and you're going to have to worry about each week when you put in your lineup, if you tweak something, did it screw my lineup? I'm afraid of Cooper Kupp this year.
Well, and the other thing I worry about is that, just look at the Rams are going to stink. Like the Rams have the potential to be really, really bad. And okay, you want to say, well, I mean, that means they're going to be throwing the football a little bit more. Well, that's fair. The offensive line last year, I mean, we're going to all of a sudden see a drastic change when you look at, that offensive line for the Los Angeles Rams. I get the quarterback play is going to be better. We understand Matthew Stafford is better than what they were rolling out with last year. I understand that. But yeah, when you see the news, so the Rams are not going to be particularly good. And then you see the news that, yesterday Cooper Kupp was in Minnesota to see a specialist to try and get to the root of his hamstring issues. Well, I mean, that would lead me to believe I'm not necessarily sure he's going to be on the field, nor if I'm a fantasy owner, would I want Cooper Kupp on the field week 1 just to play out what you just mentioned, Keith, which is if he re-aggravates that hamstring, then how long is he going to be out for after that?
Yeah. And, a lot of people drafted Jerry Jeudy. They're running through this. A lot of people are looking at other players. Jalen Waddle, will he play week number 1? There are a bevy of players that are dealing with, nagging things. We don't know what the official situation is with Mark Andrews either. There are a lot of stud fantasy players. And again, this is betting and fantasy, but also NFL. From NFL standpoint, a little bit different. But yeah, from a fantasy standpoint, there are a lot of players that worry us early on.
Want to remind everybody, start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's All-Pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. When we come back, we'll start to dabble into a little bit of the Thursday night matchup. Chiefs and Lions. Kansas City, they're not going to have Chris Jones along the defensive line unless something drastically changes. A lot of expectations on Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions going into 2023 after they showed more than a little life a year ago. We'll do that next. He's Keith Arizari. I'm Mark Malusis. It's Moose and Keith with you on a Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
I feel like this is a quietly contentious point in dynasty fantasy football, what it means to actually be rebuilding. Some people say you should never truly be rebuilding. How do you view the rebuilding versus competing dichotomy in dynasty?
So I will be the first person to acknowledge that my preferred format of fantasy football is just redraft. The years that I have played dynasty, it has been I've drafted a win now team because I've seen people that have just gotten into the cycle of rebuilding and thus they just don't make any progress. So if you're rebuilding for the 5th year in a row, I just, I don't know exactly how you get out of it, but yeah, it's definitely something that can happen. And a lot of people, especially when we come out of the NFL draft, everyone's just instantly shipping off, draft picks and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something that can happen.
Joey, do you feel similarly to it? Do you feel like you see people getting stuck in the rebuilding loop?
I mean, I would say people that try to rebuild in the beginning of seasons, of their fantasy seasons, I see them get stuck in that rut. I would really try to only ever rebuild if I knew I was going to miss the playoffs. Like, I'm always trying to play to win, even if it's maybe I don't know.
I think my big thing is the word rebuild is a much shorter time frame than I think most people say it should be. Like, they look at rebuild as like 3 years out competing. Rebuild, you're looking to compete next season. You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing it now, you're looking to revamp, and maybe there's a one season where you ship it off, but that very next season you should be competing. If you're doing it like that, I'm cool with it, but you gotta have a plan, not just keep getting the young players, keep getting the draft picks. Otherwise you end up like Tim. Maybe not like Tim who gets a bye, but you make the playoffs, you're in that like 4 to 6 range every year, just hovering in the middle. Nothing ever gets better, nothing ever gets worse.
I think I play like you in Dynasty, Simon. I play in 3-year windows.
100%. That's my go-to. And with the rate at which Dynasty leagues turn over, you should really only ever play in a 3-year window.
We can't wait to get going. It's a long journey, and this is the most important game because it's the one right in front of us. Obviously, a big challenge with this team. Coach Reed, I've got a ton of respect for. They got a number of guys that present challenges for us. It starts with their quarterback. I think this halfback's pretty good. Kelsey, we know about. This offensive line is improved. Look, I think we need takeaways. We got to convert on third down on offense, and we need takeaways on defense. That's what we have to come away this game with, and I think we'll say that all year long.
In basketball, like the cliche is make them go left when you want to stop a guy. Is there equivalent with Mahomes?
Make him go backwards. That would be about the best way to sum it up. He's tough. He is a highly competitive, highly instinctive, aware player. He is the engine in this offense. Everything runs through him. He makes it go. And then around him, he's got these pivotal pieces, 87 being one of them. And when you're all on the same page like they are, and they have communication without saying a word, it's tough. But there's a way to limit what they do a little bit, and it's going to take every one of us over there defensively. You got to play your keys, do your job, but then when the play breaks down, we got to stay alive, and you may have to stay alive for 6-7 seconds, and you better find out where 87 is when that play breaks down too. So he's as good as they come. He's as tough as they are to play. He's a great player. So we're excited. Can't wait to get this one going.
Travis Kelce.
That's exactly right.
I want him on every fan. I wish I can get Travis Kelce on every fantasy team this year. I want all the shares of Travis Kelce this year.
Yeah, and hopefully he doesn't disappoint. I don't think he will. But he's an unbelievable tight end, unbelievable fantasy player, and Just a word of advice for everyone out there, because if you go back a year ago at this time in the Thursday night game after the Buffalo Bills just absolutely completely embarrassed the Los Angeles Rams, remember the conversation after that was basically like, oh, stop the season. The Bills are going to go out there and win the Super Bowl. What are the Bills' odds to win the Super Bowl? They went down right after that game. Who won the Super Bowl? It was not the Buffalo Bills. So don't overreact to anything, whether it be Thursday night or week one, to what we see in terms of and how this season is going to go out there and play out. And I think a lot of people, when this announcement was made about what the Thursday night game was going to be, Keith, was like, wait a second, it's Lions and Chiefs on the first Thursday night game. Like, why isn't the Lions? Because honestly, like Jared Goff last year for stretches of the season, I would say this, for a stretch after Jalen Hurts got hurt for the Philadelphia Eagles, after he suffered that shoulder injury, because Hurts was the best quarterback in the NFC and could have been the MVP of the league if he didn't suffer that shoulder injury. Jared Goff had a renaissance year last year for the Lions. He really did. And the Detroit Lions, went into Green Bay with nothing to play for that final week and handed the Packers a big fat loss. And I think a lot of people are looking at this Detroit team and thinking that, they're going to be a really dangerous team. And I'll tell you, Thursday night, I don't think they're going to be fearful of that, and I don't think they should be, especially when you look at a Chief defense without Chris Jones. I mean, and we have seen it, Keith, that defense for the Kansas City Chiefs without Jones, who right there is a top 3 defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman in the NFL. Without him on the field, that Chiefs defense is not particularly good. He is the best defensive player on the team.
Yeah, and I think that I'm going to double back to Goff in a second. First, want to do this. I think that the running game for Detroit might be lights out on Thursday. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's electric. And I think David Montgomery, like, we're forgetting that for stretches 2 years ago in Chicago, Montgomery looked like he was going to be a Pro Bowl type of running back. Last year took a little bit of a step back. But this is a Detroit offensive line that's considered one of the best in football, if not the best in football. They were opening up holes for Jamal Williams last year, who went out and scored 175 touchdowns. I'm joking. But David Montgomery is going to have the opportunity to play the game the same way as Jamal Williams. Now, Moose, let me double back to Jared Goff. I'll take us back to a Thursday night game in which Jared Goff or was it Monday night, Thursday night, whatever it was, the LA Rams, when they had that shootout with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not afraid. Jared Goff is not going to be afraid. Now, he doesn't have as many weapons. So listen, Jameson Williams is suspended. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be awesome. They don't have as many weapons for Goff to spread the ball around to. But I think this is going to be an excellent game. We've also seen teams like Kansas City come out and be a little sluggish early on. I wouldn't be surprised if the offense maybe doesn't click on all cylinders right off the bat. Maybe they're a little sluggish. I think it's going to be a really fun game Thursday night.
Brian, let's hear from Patrick Mahomes. We've got some
that he has, a competitor that he is. They'd be able to go out the entire game, no matter if it's a good play, bad play. They're going to come back that next snap and play extremely hard. And then they do a lot of great stuff scheme-wise. They had a lot of young guys playing last year. You could see even throughout the season how they grew and got better and better. They've added talent with young guys and veterans. They play hard and they got better even last year. We know it's going to be a heck of a football game, and if we don't play our best football, we're not going to go out there and win. No matter if it was at the Rams or last year with the Lions, he's always put up stats. He's always won games. That takes something. To be able to win a game when everything might not be going perfect, you have to have something inside of you that says, I can go out there and find a way to win. And he's done that his entire career. Obviously talented thrower, big guy that can go around and make a lot of big time throws. He's won everywhere he's been, so I know it's going to be a great challenge for us.
There you have it. I mean, listen, Mahomes is obviously is the best quarterback in the National Football League. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And last year, I think he proved to a lot of people that obviously he did not need Tyreek Hill. Got helped out in the Super Bowl with the fact that grass was terrible to play on and it negated the pass rush of the Philadelphia Eagles. But still, they got to that Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, who was down in Miami and was doing Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster and Sky Moore late and Marcus Valdez.
Your boy Kadarius
Toney late. So I mean, it is, but make no mistake about it. I mean, Andy Reid has been scheming for the last 7 months to get ready for the Detroit Lions. He's going to have an offensive game plan. What I think we're going to get Thursday night, Keith, is this. I think we're going to get a lot of points. I think Detroit's going to score on Kansas City, even though, as you mentioned, it's not like they have a cavalcade of weapons without Jamison Williams. But I think the Chiefs are going to be able to score on that Lions defense as well.
Now, I do this fantasy survivor, right? It's a little bit different. And I talked about it a lot last year during our program. So for anybody that doesn't know, it's players that you're selecting in Survivor, not teams, right? So each week I need to pick a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, and then 2 flexes, right? So you got 6 players. I'm thinking about using David Montgomery in week number 1. And my train of thought here is I do think he's going to score a touchdown. And I think there's going to be points to be scored in this game on both sides of the ball. I don't know how many times down the road I'm going to use David Montgomery because I believe that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up taking over fully as the number 1 real option there at running back. And one of my theories is that if you use a guy on Thursday and he lays an egg, then I know I need to use a star or 2 for Sunday. If I can crush it with let's say Montgomery gets 2 touchdowns, maybe I really nail it. Now I can be a little more sneaky in my week 1 lineup with someone else.
Well, I also like it with the fact that there's no Chris Jones.
Exactly. That too. Yes.
I mean, that does help out the cause because you tell me he's part of that defensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't necessarily mind the pick, but I don't like it as much as with the fact that Jones is out due to the contract squabble he's having with Kansas City. We mentioned Kadarius Toney. Keith did. Here's Mahomes talking about whether or not Toney will be available Thursday night.
That he has, the competitor that he is, to be able to go out there and have that weapon would definitely be a huge positive. He's done a great job in the practices that he's been in so far, and I'm looking forward to him continue to step up and be even better and be more like his normal self, which honestly, going out there the first few days and seeing him, he looks like KT. I'm excited for that. He put a lot of time in that rehab process so that he can get himself ready, hopefully, to play in this first week.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and if he's available, Kadarius Toney, the biggest issue is not talent with Kadarius Toney. He can make guys miss, basically. He's quick twitch, everything you want to see in a modern NFL athlete. He's very, very fast, plays bigger than his size. I mean, there's nothing not to like about what Kadarius Toney presents to you as an NFL wide receiver. The problem is, for fantasy players or for NFL teams, whether it be the Giants and now the Kansas City Chiefs, is whether or not Kadarius Toney is healthy enough to play. And that's something that if you drafted Kadarius Toney and he's available and he's healthy and ready to go in any given week, I have the understanding that he might suffer some injury that all of a sudden he's out for the next 3 to 4 weeks because availability has not been Kadarius Toney's best friend. No,
it's kind of unfortunately his MO. A reminder, today's Fantasy Alarm features all available at fantasyalarm.com, fantasy football waiver wire for week 1. You got player rankings, weekly matchups, hot takes. Got to get the hot takes and some more. Fantasy football ADP risers and fallers that for all of you that are still drafting, and many of us still are. It's a 7-day free trial of Fantasy Alarm All Pro. You get immediate free access to the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and cheat sheet. Go to fantasyalarm.com/all pro. Moose has already got all of his stuff printed out ready for this evening.
Not really.
No, you didn't print it out yet?
No, not yet.
Come on, man.
It's going to be this afternoon.
Did you do your shared calendar with Donna yet?
Yes, we did do that. But we're having a problem. We only have an hour show now. So we have a problem loading stuff on and connecting it. It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
But we're halfway there.
Halfway there. Yeah. I mean, this week's
it only took a year. We're halfway there.
Do you understand? Like this week, all of a sudden, like you wake up and like you and I were talking a little bit before the show, like you wake up and everything is here. Like Rutgers season started on Sunday. They beat Northwestern. And I was down in Piscataway for that. And, did a fan show before the football game from 9 to 11. So it's up at like 5:30 on Sunday morning. And now, we're doing a show now instead of 1 2-hour show, we're doing 2 1-hour shows every week. And, where the football season is just, whether it be fantasy drafts, whether it be knockout pools, whether it be, pick'em pools, it just like it's never ending. It's like the machine, and now it's really gonna like start to crank. Like summer went fast, like now the fall is gonna just like we're gonna rip through it.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. That's what it is. We love the grind.
That's it.
Man. All right, we got a lot still to do. We got bold, bolder, and boldest coming up at the bottom of this hour. You guys are gonna love that. Some of our bold, and boldest takes.
Predictions.
Yeah, predictions. And the Mannings, they
I
are
don't know.
looking.
Now I'm getting the Mannings teased that they were gonna have a third host.
Yeah, they're looking, and it's apparently they're looking for a third brother, and it's not their own. Okay, that's basically what they're doing here. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We could talk about a little bit of Coach Prime and
we
Colorado.
Get into the,
Yep. It was a good first week, college football. All that and so much more. He is Marc Malusis. I am Keith Irizarry. It is Moose and Keith. It is Better Sports Network. We'll be right back.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC, tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well. Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only 2 wide receivers or if you're drafting 3 wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're drafting, you're in the middle of a draft, and you just noticed that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy isn't my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
It's Moose and Keith with Marc Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Want to remind everybody, start your free 7-day free trial at Fantasy Alarm All Pro and get immediate free access to the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide and Cheat Sheet. Fantasy Football Waiver Wire Week 1, Fantasy Football Player Rankings, Weekly Matchup, Hot Takes, and more. Fantasy Football ADP Risers and Fallers. For all those that are still drafting, what do you need to do? Go to fantasyalarm.com/all-pro. Let's get into a little college football, shall we? I got a question for you. I'm going to fire it out at you. Who are you more concerned for as a head coach? Brian Kelly or Dabo Swinney?
So my initial thought would be Brian Kelly, right? Because he's been at so many other universities. It doesn't always end perfectly. And he's also the kind of guy, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he'll just jump ship and go somewhere wherever the next.
Yeah, he's yeah.
All right, there you go. Yes, the next
Fraud.
shiny toy.
I'll call him a fraud. He's a fraud.
Go ahead.
Yeah, when he throws on the Southern accent, when he throws on the Bayou accent, when he's getting introduced at LSU, and he's not from Louisiana. I mean, come on.
But Dabo Swinney, for all of the grace that he built up, right? Let's take a look at this. When he doesn't have, and maybe this is any coach, but when he doesn't have the best QB in America, he doesn't win, right? Like Deshaun Watson helped him win. Trevor Lawrence helped him win. And then, you got DJ Uiagalelei didn't work out. You got this kid Klubnik not working out, or maybe he will work out. Who knows? Like maybe there is something to be said. Maybe Dabo is not that dude. Maybe he's not an all-time great coach, and he was just a really good recruiter that got some great quarterbacks, and he got 6 years out of those 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but what surprises me is how quickly it's kind of rotted away. Like
really quick.
Like it's like really quick. Like Clemson not only had the great quarterbacks, but I mean they've had unbelievable running backs. They've had unbelievable wide receivers. They had defensive linemen. I mean, you had one year where all 4 guys along the defensive line were drafted into the National Football League. Dexter Lawrence is a huge shiny star for the New York Football Giants. Like he had corners that were like he had unbelievable amount of talent. And now you look at this Clemson team who went into Duke. I mean, they got absolutely run out of the building by the Duke Blue Devils. And we're not talking about college basketball. We're talking about college football, and it's amazing when you look at Dabo Swinney to where, and it was so weird. You mentioned they didn't have the quarterback, right? So after Trevor Lawrence, they didn't have that next guy, right? And that's an indictment on, the recruiters and the coaching staff down there where they didn't have the guy that was clearly the no doubter.
They whiffed on DJ. Essentially they whiffed on DJ.
No doubt about it. The offense has just completely regressed. Like they have no semblance of offense. All of a sudden, Clemson went from a team that was, all about the offense and scoring points left and right to now all about, now all about the defense. But, I think people have a short memory. They really do. I mean, what have you done for me lately? You look at Clemson now, that's an embarrassing loss. And it's also an embarrassing loss for LSU. Like Brian Kelly, who shows you, as you mentioned it, no loyalty whatsoever, right? Yeah. He went to LSU, got the bag, and that's fine. And he wanted to bring in his kind of players. They couldn't get into Notre Dame to try and win a national championship and be on a bigger stage, and get into the SEC to kind of prove his mettle as a head coach. Well, when you're at LSU, I don't care what the contract is and the amount of donors that they have. Like, if you're going out and getting completely throttled by Florida State on national TV, in week 1 and getting embarrassed when all you did was talk about beating Florida State and enacting revenge and all of this. Like, Brian Kelly and LSU better bounce back in a big time way because that he is going to be under immense pressure for LSU.
Now let's do this too, because we're sitting here on Tuesday, September 5th, the loss for LSU this weekend, right? If there's ever a time for the loss, we talk about this each and every year.
Yeah, it's week 1. I get it.
Yeah, week 1, week 2, get your loss out of the way. LSU loses to Florida State. Now let's go on the assumption that Florida State at minimum turns into an 8-9 win team, right? And they stay in the top 25 all year long. Maybe they're better, by the way. But if they stay a top 25 team and LSU now runs off the rest of the season, LSU is going to be in the conversation again for the college football playoffs. But lose one more, now those LSU donors and boosters are starting to say, Brian, what's going on here? Why aren't we winning? Why aren't we why aren't we fighting for a national championship? Can't be losing these games.
Well, that's exactly right. And so you talk about the pressure on Dabo, the pressure on Kelly, and really after week 1. And I don't know if I necessarily need to hear the receipts comment or the doubters comment. I think a lot of people were excited, intrigued when Deion Sanders took the job at Colorado, and intrigued by the messaging to his players, all right, after that introductory press conference. And Deion was going to bring, and we said at the time, like, if he goes to the NFL, that would be one thing. But if he stays in college football, he's not going to be at Colorado for the next 20 years. Like, Deion Sanders is going to, take the success at Colorado and go name another, big university.
He wants Florida State. If we can read the
Correct.
tea leaves, he wants Florida State. The problem is that Norvell's doing a good job there. But.
Right. He wanted Florida State 6 years ago.
Exactly.
Remember when he was, remember when he interviewed for that job and people threw it? He wanted that job before, so he wanted that job a long time ago. But I'll tell you this, what a hell of a victory, as for Colorado week 1. What a, setting a tone for the season. And I'll say this about Deion as well. You want to talk about connectivity with kids, the messaging and the videos that came out, whether it be the pregame pep talk, whether it be the halftime talk. I watched it over and over again. Like, listen, I'm a 47-year-old man. Like, I'm not playing college football, right? So, but I'll tell you, there are going to be kids that are 15, 16, 17 that are going to look at and watch Deion Sanders and watch the way that he communicates with his players that are, of elite level football ability and say, yeah, that's the guy that I want to go play for.
Well, how about, and you talked about the speeches, how about the halftime interview? And I pardon me, I don't remember who the sideline reporter was, but she asked the question about Travis Hunter, the electric two-way player, that he had played 60 snaps in the first half. And she said to him, to Coach Prime, Coach, how do you keep Travis fresh in the second half? And he goes, we don't have to worry about that. Travis is him. The fact that a coach is using
what did he say at the end
line,
of that about the Heisman Trophy? What did he say at the end?
Travis or Prime? Or
Prime.
Coach?
What did Prime say?
I don't remember what he said about that.
Okay, I forget because he trailed off a little bit. Then he closed out by saying "God bless" and ran off.
Yeah, because Travis has been the one that's been talking. He's taken to social media. I know my older son Austin. I think he follows him on a lot of social media stuff. He posts a lot of videos about how he's going to win the Heisman. Like the Heisman's his. My fear for a kid like Travis Hunter is, as great as he is, no one has ever, and I know Will Blackman, who we're hoping to get later on this week, was posting a whole bunch of stuff about other players that have played two-way and have gotten a lot of yardage and a lot of snaps
Charles
on
Woodson
defense.
did it with the Wolverines.
Yeah, a whole bunch of players, right? My fear for a player like Hunter is, 129 snaps? Like, I don't know how realistic that is to do for a full season.
Yeah.
But my goodness, he is talented, this kid. He is so good.
How about the interception that he had?
Whew!
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, I don't answer your question. I don't know. I would think that at some point, when the matchup doesn't lead him to have to be on the field for that long, they won't have him on the field for that many snaps. So, but he's an unbelievable player. There's no question about it. But listen, Caleb Williams and USC, they put on a show as you would expect. And, he's a guy that a lot of people think is going to be the number 1 overall pick. May down in North Carolina might say, well, what about me? I mean, I talked to an NFL scouting friend of mine who talked about those two quarterbacks and said, those two quarterbacks by far are better than anything that has been in the NFL draft since Trevor Lawrence. When you look at about quarterback prospects,
yeah,
they're so anything that was better than anything that went last year, better. So when you look at Caleb Williams and you look at May down in North Carolina, and there might be debate when we get, but those guys are going to be, those guys are 2 future pros, and maybe Sanders at Colorado, the quarterback. Who with Pat Shurmur on that staff, and he basically said that he looks at Shamir Sanders and says that he is a upper echelon NFL starting quarterback. Well, I'll tell you, against TCU, you look just like that.
Yeah, let's see what they do against Nebraska next week. They're home next week against Nebraska. I think they win that game. I mean, even just take a look at the way the odds makers move that from, I want to say Nebraska was like 9.5 point favorites, moved down to like 2.5, 3.5, depending on the book. So I think Colorado could win that game. Then you got Colorado State in week 3. You should win that game. And the real true test to see if the TCU win was for real or not, number 15 Oregon in week number 4. Then you got USC at home. You got back-to-back big games. If somehow Colorado is 4-1 after those first 5 games,
look out.
If people find, and I don't think you do either, but if people find Coach Prime insufferable now, If they're 4-1 after that, that's going to be something special. I love Deion Sanders. I love what he's doing for the game. I love what he's doing for the players. He's empowering his players. I think it's fantastic. I like the youthful nature of a head coach, the no nonsense. I also think that it is fascinating as a test to see if you can really pull this off, because what Deion Sanders is doing in Colorado is essentially what college basketball coaches do, what the Kentuckys of the world do. Just bring in 5-6 McDonald All-Americans and say, I don't know if there'll be chemistry or not, but we're going to have the best talent on the floor. Let's see if it works. And what Colorado did was they brought in a couple of really top-notch talent guys and guys that Deion said were super athletic that he thinks can mix and match in different spots. See if it works. Buy into the program.
We'll come back. We got bold predictions. Also, a tremendous skit video that were put out by Peyton and Eli Manning. We'll get into that as well. It's Moose and Keith with you on this Tuesday right here, Better Sports Network.
Kendre Miller fan. He's running back 46 in the Fantasy Pros Championship right now at the end of the 11th round. I want you to talk a little bit about him from both standpoints. Number one, from redraft. He's in the backfield, same backfield as Alvin Kamara, who we talked about in the first hour, and then obviously Jamal Williams. But as far as dynasty goes too, what should you be doing now if you're a dunce like me and missed on Miller? What kind of offers should you be making for Kendre Miller in your dynasty leagues right now?
Well, the problem now is the news worked against you, right? In the sense that you know that there's a suspension looming. We don't know what that suspension is. So do you try to go after him prior to the suspension, or do you wait to see how long it is?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because the higher the suspension is, the more expensive Kendre is going to be. It gives him an opportunity. We saw Kamara, you don't have to go farther than New Orleans. We saw Kamara take advantage. I remember they brought in Adrian Peterson. They had, what's his name? Mark Ingram.
Yep.
Right? And then they brought in Kamara, and everyone's like, there's no way Kamara's going to be relevant year one. And he smashed because talent comes through. These teams want to win now. They're going to put the best players out there. Kendre Miller comes off of a 1,400-yard season. Like, one thing for me, bulky in fantasy, is if you showed me you did it, I'm going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
This whole upside thing where you've never done it, I'm over all of that. Like, tight end position I talk about often, that's why I don't invest in rookie tight ends. I'll pay the price for a Kelsey. I'll pay for a Kittle when I know they're going to smash for me, right? Running back, you're looking for talent. You're looking for proven. This guy's proved it. And progression. You look at his career in college, he's progressed every year in the receiving game, in the rushing game. There's something about when you watch him play, and sometimes it's not, I don't have a great stat for you or anything, but there's certain guys when I see him play, something kind of, and he's one of the guys when I started watching his tape and just seeing what he can do. I think he can be an all-around workhorse. He had 224 touches in his last season in college. So, look, we talk about New Orleans. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. They have a new quarterback. They have everything, a whole new situation there. He could come in with Kamara out and just take over that backfield right away.
Hi, I'm Jared Goff, quarterback, here to audition.
So, Jared, how excited are you about the opportunity to be on the most popular show on television?
Isn't this for the Manning Cast?
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, I play quarterback.
Ooh, quarterback. We like that.
You like that?
I just said that we liked it.
You like that?
I mean, what is this guy's deal?
No, but did you like it?
How do you feel about audibles?
We generally just want the quarterback to run the play that's called. That's the play.
Sean McVay, Los Angeles Rams head coach.
On this team, we tear ourselves to pieces.
This is how you guys dress in real life. You guys are terrible evaluators, and go f*** yourself.
Thank you, Mike. Who are your broadcasting icons?
Another one.
What would you say are your strengths?
We the best. I'm just here because your guys have the most punchable face in the history of punching faces.
Wow, Reese Witherspoon. I mean, we're honored you'd even consider auditioning for the Manning Cast.
Manning what? Oh, no, I was calling to bundle my home and auto. Aren't you the insurance guy?
So what would we know you from?
Have you heard of TikTok?
Sure.
Really?
No.
Hi, Lil Wayne, Weezy Baby, President Carter.
I'm Peyton, and this is Lil Brother. Let's get some sleeves on you, big boy.
I don't think the job's for me. I have no idea what this is, but I don't think I'm the right guy.
Well, we tried our best.
Guess it's just the two of us again this season.
Unless there's someone on that list who is just perfect for the job.
Nope. Not on this list.
You been waiting here a long time, too? No, I didn't get the Manicast job. I guess I'll just come back and play football again.
Wow, the end of that was fantastic.
The McDaniel stuff was it's great.
I like Tyson because you guys have the most punchable faces.
It's great. It's just so good. Omaha Productions do a fantastic job. I know one of the guys, Sam Pepper, that works behind the scenes over there, and they do great work. They really do. Question in our chat from Crazy Legs 225 for you, Keith. PPR flex, James Conner or Jordan Addison?
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so here's the deal. In PPR, I have to believe in Jordan Addison just a hair more, and here's why. We talked about it maybe a week or two ago about all the targets that are available now that Thielen is gone. Now, I know that KJ Osborne is in the lineup still for Minnesota. Jordan Addison is supremely talented, and while Justin Jefferson is going to catch 115, 120 footballs this year, someone else needs to catch the ball. I would lean Addison slightly over Conner. And then the other thing about James Conner is that offense is going to be so dreadfully bad. You are counting on James Conner to score touchdowns. How many touchdowns are the Cardinals even going to score? And then one other nugget on James Conner goes to this. Each and every year, it's tried and true, wash, rinse, repeat. You know that James Conner is going to miss a couple of games. You're going to be without him. Let's roll with Addison. Go with the upside there.
All right, let's get into a little bolder, and boldest predictions. We got about 4 minutes left in the program here for this Tuesday, Keith.
Okay.
I'll run through it quick. And then we'll go back and forth. First off, my bold prediction: I think Saquon Barkley is going to lead the NFL in rushing.
Ooh. Okay, you believe in their offensive line enough?
I do believe in their offensive line enough. I think he's extremely motivated. Coming off what happened during the course of this offseason. I know health is always a concern. He's got to stay healthy. I think the only concern I'd have about the O-line is a little bit interior. I think the speed that they added to the outside is going to open things up. Saquon Barkley leads the NFL in rushing.
I will go bold and say Lamar Jackson, for the first time in his NFL career, will throw for 4,000 yards or more. Mark Andrews will play. Isaiah Likely is the best second tight end on any roster. The offensive line is good enough. J.K. Dobbins going to be healthy this year. We cross our fingers. And then you actually have wide receivers as well. Lamar Jackson going to prove that he can throw for more than 4,000 yards.
All right, bolder. The Detroit Lions will make it to the NFC Championship.
You're drinking that juice, huh?
I am drinking the Kool-Aid. Because everybody and their mother, and it's a wide open NFC. Like, I think the Giants are going to be a playoff team, and everyone looks at it and think it's Eagles, San Francisco, and everybody else to start the season, obviously. And I'm not denying that they're not the two most talented teams. However, I think the Lions, after Williams comes off that suspension, will get a little bit more dynamic offensively. Liked what I saw last year, the connection with Goff and his offensive coordinator. It's a wide open NFC. I think there's going to be some team that doesn't give us 49ers and Eagles in that NFC Championship game. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions.
I can rock with you there. I will go to the AFC and give you the Jacksonville Jaguars will make the AFC Championship game. I would go as far as saying my bolder take would be that the Jaguars may win 12 or 13 games. The AFC South, they stink, right? So they're gonna run through that division. I think the Jaguars may end up getting the 1 seed in the AFC, but I'll stay with my bolder pick and say that they will make the AFC Championship. They've got all the wide receivers in the world. They've got the running game, and they've got Mr. Hair in Trevor Lawrence.
He's got an unbelievable head of lettuce. There's no doubt. All right, my boldest prediction for your dad and for all Jet fans out there, the New York Jets will win the Super Bowl.
Oh, be still our hearts.
The New York Jets will win the Super Bowl this year. And I get there's the curse of Hard Knocks and everybody, the expectations, and people are rooting for them to fall flat on their face, and it can't all work out because nothing good happens to the Jets, and Jet fans can't have nice things. Well, this is going to be the year where Jet fans can have nice things. Fireman Ed, Joe Beningo, your dad, all Jet fans out there that have just been doom and gloomers, and rightfully so. A team that has not made the playoffs in 12 years. Last time they made it was 2010. The New York Jets not only are a playoff team in 2023, they're the Super Bowl champion in February.
Give me Eagles, Jets in a Super Bowl, and I'll just be happy.
Wow.
I walk away a winner no matter what. That's not my boldest take, by the way. But, that would be so nice. Give me the all green. All right, so my boldest take is this. Bijan Robinson will lead all running backs in fantasy points this year. I am looking at the trend of running backs being taken in the top 10, okay? Young running backs, the rookie running backs. The last 4 that have done so have all ended up as top 10 fantasy running backs. And then you look at the Atlanta Falcons. I know Algier is there and Patterson is there, but this is a team that, despite losing in games last year, even when they were trailing, we're still running about 48% of the time. Bijan Robinson, let's go.
Bijan Robinson leads all running backs in fantasy points this year.
Yes.
So the hype is all real.
I'm on the hype train. My older son, Austin, did not get Bijan in one of his drafts. He is currently working to try to trade for Bijan. I'm in.
Beautiful. Love it. Well, Keith, I might be in contact later on.
I'm around tonight. I'll be doing some baseball prep late night tonight. I got you.
All right. I might need a little bit of help. That does it for us.
You.
Burns, great job. Great job on the other side, handling everything. Keith, great show as always. Thanks to everybody in the chat session. Better Boss, Bryce Young, Offensive Rookie of the Year. We'll find out. Mr. Justin Fields. Guys, have yourself a great Tuesday. Enjoy the opener on Thursday night, Chiefs and Lions. We'll be back with you Friday morning at 11 right here on the Better Sports Network. Have yourself a day.